So when you started in politics, I read you were worth $1,100.
That much?
Yeah, that much. That's right.
Lex Fridman had Bernie Sanders on. This is about 3 months ago, but it's interesting because I have seen this repeatedly, this attack from the right about Bernie's being rich, and Bernie has 3 houses and he's worth $2 million, and how dare he attack the rich, and which is pretty rich. Anyway, Lex addresses it directly with Bernie, and I want to share this clip with you. And then I want to know what you think in the comments, but let's hop right into it, shall we?
Since running for president, you've often been attacked, especially from the right, about being worth, I believe, $2 million and owning 3 houses. So from my perspective, the answer to that is most of your wealth has been earned from writing books and selling those books. And you are one of the most famous politicians in the world. And so your wealth in the context in comparison to other people of that fame level and other politicians is actually quite modest. So what's your response usually to those attacks?
Do I own 3 residences? Yeah, I do. I live here in Burlington, Vermont. We live in a middle-class neighborhood, nice house. Guess what? I'm a United States Senator, and I own a home in Washington, D.C., as do most senators. You know, you live there year after year. When I first when I was in Congress for 16 years, I rented all the time. But I got elected. Okay, you got a 6-year term. You know what? Let's buy a house. So we bought a house. And guess what? Like many thousands of people in the state of Vermont, I have a summer camp. It's a nice one on Lake Champlain. That's it. Now, how did I get the money? You're right. I wrote 2 best-selling books, including this book on capitalism. It was New York Times bestseller for a while. And also another book was a youth book. And I make, I don't know, $175,000 a year. And that's more or less how I became the zillionaire that I am.
Well, I should also mention that sometimes the word mansion is used, and I think your residences are quite modest, at least from my
normal
perspective.
houses in Brooklyn. They're not, they're middle-class houses, very nice house.
So when you started in politics, I read you were worth $1,100.
That much?
Yeah, that much. That's right. Has the increase in wealth changed your ability to relate to the working class?
Well, that's a good question. And obviously, growing up in a working class family has been maybe the most singularly significant aspect of my politics. It's, I grew up without money in a family that lived in a rent-controlled apartment in Brooklyn, New York. So that has impacted me. I'll tell you, I don't really give a damn about money. I drive a car that's 11 years old. It's an old car. And money, here's my jewelry. It's a solar watch.
Nice.
And my wedding ring. That's about it. I don't have a Rolex watch. Would not be interested in it. But I'll tell you what has impacted me. My wife, who also grew up in a working class family, will tell you the same. We don't worry. You raise that issue. If we have to go to the doctor, if our kids have to go to the doctor, we go to the doctor. I don't stay up nights worrying. There was a time I have to worry about how to pay my electric bill. I don't worry about that anymore. So what has happened, that stress, that economic stress of not worrying about a financial disaster, that's gone. And that is
significant. And I appreciate that he calls that out. I can certainly speak to, as I think the majority of Americans can, that background stress of just meeting utilities, if you've got kids, if you've got student loans, right? The weight of debt is something that you may be so used to, you don't even realize how heavy it can be over time until it is gone. And I hope that you get to a place where that is gone. I personally managed to pay off some debt with the help of my parents. And there was a moment where I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe the sense of relief, that the profundity of that relief. It's not nothing. It adds up. And I think that it is a state most people in this country are intimately familiar with. It's crushing.
Enormous. I, maybe as much or more than any other member of the Senate, work hard, not only for, but with working class people. I'm chairman of the committee that deals with labor issues. We have been involved probably in dozens of strikes all over this country. I've been on picket lines. So, I do my best. It's a very easy trap to fall into. You can get separated from ordinary people and their struggles. Not hard to do. I try as hard as I can not to do that.
So sometimes people say, can money buy happiness? I think I agree with you. That worry, sort of being able to fill up your car and not worry about how much it's going to cost, or be able to get food for dinner and not worry about how much it's going to cost. Or even, I've been poor most of my life, but I've been very fortunate recently to have enough wealth to not worry about healthcare, to have insurance and be able to afford an emergency room visit. And that worry is just such a giant lift off your shoulders.
Lex, I think you said it very well. I remember and I saw this change in myself. When I used to go and I do the grocery shop, my wife does a lot of the cooking, I do the grocery shop, and I used to look at the prices of everything. I do that less now. I say, what the hell, so what? It costs 50 cents more for this can of stuff, so what? But that's a luxury you have when you don't have to worry about that. And I don't have to worry about it. But your point is, again, to me, I don't like big fancy cars or big fancy homes. Don't go on. My wife will tell you we've not been on a real vacation for God knows how long, because I work pretty hard. But the major thing about having money, which is enormously important, is just what you said. I don't have to worry. If somebody in my family gets sick, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to worry about putting food on the table or paying the mortgage. So that's what money has done.
Again, no secret, big fan of Senator Sanders. I am a big fan of Senator Sanders. What's really interesting and refreshing to me is that he is willing to tell us what he makes. He says he makes $175,000 a year. Now, that's a ton of money. You know what I mean? $175,000 a year. I think most Americans would say, an anesthesiologist makes more than that. A surgeon makes more than a lot of people make more than that. Don't get me wrong. I am not sneezing at $175,000 a year. That is a ton of money. But when you compare it to the millionaires and billionaires and the people that make millions of dollars a year and the CEOs and the people that he talks about as the 1% and the 1% of the 1%, it really puts in perspective, like $175,000 a year, 3 residences, one where he works in. This is a senator too, right? A U.S. senator. That's a nice job. He's got a residence there where he works in D.C. He's got a residence in his home state of Vermont, and then they've got a lake place. Nice, really nice. I mean, hey, that must be nice. But it's certainly not the picture that his critics paint of, well, you're rich, you live in mansions and 3 homes, and what are you barking at us about? Come on, give me a break. I think it's really refreshing to hear him talk about anything, because he's always so frank, but especially about income and the stress that just having to struggle and worry about this stuff. Like, if you think about $1,000 a month, right? If you are a person who has a perfectly normal job, like a 40-hour-a-week job, and you make $50,000 a year, right? Another $1,000 a month would take you from $50,000 a year to $62,000 a year. And that $12,000 a year makes a palpable difference in your quality of life. That $1,000 a month at that tier is huge, feels huge, right? And then if you had to go back to 50 the following year, you would feel that tightening of the belt. You'd feel that pinch. $12,000 a year, when these conversations in the public domain we're talking about, Elon Musk is almost $500 million, and billionaires and CEOs, it's almost a different planet, right? Just to put things in perspective. Let me know what you think in the comments.